Hello and welcome to the official F-14 Tomcat radio show, straight out of Grumman, Calverton, where all 712 airframes were built. I'm the show's producer. I'm also joined by our co-producer. My name is Lorenzo, and our other co-producer is Aaron. Good evening.
Hey, how's it going, man?
All right. Got a killer show lined up again, part 2 here. And what do you think? We got Blain Miesterhands Air Traffic Control, served on the USS George Washington, Iceland, Caribbean. Guy's career is distinguished. Awesome.
I think there's a Top Gun line that says something about his career being distinguished and something else. I don't remember.
Oh yeah, something about Slider.
Yeah, something about that. I don't know. No, this was such an intense episode, and I would love everybody to have gotten it straight out, right out the gate. We were knocking on almost 3 hours door, so it's probably best that we split this up. I mean, especially SUEDE having such a massive career. I mean, as a Pax brat myself, hearing him talk about VX-23 was awesome. I mean, I was beyond stoked with that. So
yeah, it's always special with the test-based people. That's always
definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And and also we brought back Ray Borrelli, and Grumman family member, 3 generations, distinguished VF-11 Red Ripper plane captain, getting his Tomcats brand new off the line with his uncle building them out in Calverton, sending them straight to Oceana with Ray waiting for him. And it's just amazing. It's going to be a great show. Really is, everyone. I really hope you enjoy it. And let's get into it.
Thanks for thinking of me.
Yeah, well, stick around. We're gonna switch to Blain. Blain is I'm gonna do the quick summary of what I know. I mean, it's a pretty long quick summary, but basically, you started in the Navy in San Diego. You went to Millington where you did your training, right? And then first actual station was in Keflavik, Iceland. Is that right?
Yeah, awesome place. You got to go.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Cecil Fields, Rosie Roads, GW, as in the USS GW. I'm guessing, I'm going to talk about the timing here. I'm guessing you were probably deployed with some of my buds on there at that time. Back to Jacksonville's land-based, back to the GW. Looks like you did 3 Med Persian Gulf cruises and a Caribbean.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what I called it.
Yeah, really go. So tell us, first going to Millington, what year was that?
That was probably before you guys were born, but no, I'm just kidding. Anyway, it was I went in the fall area of 1987 or 1986, because I finished boot camp through and was lucky enough to have Christmas at home, and then went to A school and walked into there. It's like, you got to be kidding me. So our A school was 15 weeks long, and the first week was all indoctrination, and then you had to take a test at the end of that. If you passed the test, you went on. If you failed the test, you went to remedial, and then you took the test again, and if you failed it again, you were gone. And I got a 70 on the test. And the guy was sitting there, he's like, yeah, man, I checked it twice, and you got 70, you passed.
Wow.
I was like, oh yeah.
If the minimum wasn't the minimum, it wouldn't be the minimum.
Exactly. And so I went through school, and we had to learn about TAC ends and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm a hands-on guy. If I read something and then I can go immediately to use it, it sticks with me, and I'm good. But this was all read it, memorize it, test it. I'm like, so I actually got set back a week in school, and then was on remedial all the way until we got to the last 4 weeks of school, which were the labs. So I went from being last academically to being first because I could do the labs. I could control, where my class leader, he went to the back, and he had a degree. And I'm like, dude, what's up with this? And so went through that, and then thought I was going to sea, because that's what they were telling everybody. Hey, you graduate A school, you're going to the boat.
You're going to go work in the AC division on USS.
Right. The OC division. You're going to go.
The USS never docked.
That's exactly. Yeah. So, but 4 of us got sent to Keflavik, Iceland, Cool place. I was only there for a year.
Huh.
And, you know, looking back, you know, I'm sure all you guys can feel like with your previous duty stations, looking back at it, you're like, okay, if I go back, I'm going here, I'm going here, I'm going this, I'm doing this, you know, and that's kind of what our whole career was about. You put all this stuff in memory going, I want to see this again.
Yeah.
So when we were in Iceland, it was a joint Icelandic Navy air traffic control. And we had the Air Force up there flying the F-15s. I'm just gonna leave it alone. I don't want to get too bad on that. But,
Thank you. We appreciate that. Okay.
Yeah, we all know about those guys anyway. So
these are straight stick F-15s, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I never, you know, this is the only time I've ever been criticized about a GCA while the guy's doing the GCA.
A GCA being a ground control approach.
Okay, ground controlled approach. Yeah.
Ground control approach using the PAR, precision approach radar, or the surveillance approach radar. And you know, after that, I was like, dude, just shut up, man. I don't want to listen to you. You know? And but the great thing about Iceland was I learned how to control crosswinds because up there's no trees. So depending on what your runway and where the base was located and how the wind was coming over the beach, you know, you had to really learn how to control airplanes, especially C-141, C-5s. You know, F-15s, they flew mostly ILS. We didn't, unless they needed something, whatever. But the big jets flying, you know, 40, 50, 60 knot crosswinds. And you're looking out the window and this guy's sideways.
Yeah.
Coming into the runway. You know, he's like crabbing.
Yeah.
So that was a great experience, just learning how to control crosswind landings. And then I went to Cecil Field, and I don't know if you guys have ever been there before or whatever.
So Cecil Field was closed by the time I was flying, but it was open on my first deployment. Yeah.
Okay. So
wow.
So I went through to Cecil Field and started training the clearance delivery, and they're like, yeah, most of the people rock out on clearance delivery because you have how many ever squadrons you have, and then you have 30, 40 airplanes call you wanting clearances, and they just couldn't handle the pressure. I'm like, yeah, okay, bring it. And
so let me check it back a little bit. So the way that works is, for those I'm assuming a lot of people probably don't know the process here. So when we start up the jet, the first thing we do generally is we get ATIS, which is basically the field information about what's going on, what the current conditions are, that kind of thing. And then almost always the next thing you get is clearance delivery. You talk to them and you say, hey, here's what I put in a file for. Am I cleared for what I filed for? Or are you going to talk to them about something else? You can do it other ways, but basically that's the process of getting your next steps upon departure, when you're actually clearing out of the airfield. Where are you going to go from there, kind of thing. So go for that.
So we got through clearance delivery, and then they said, hey, we're going to send you out to our outlying field, White House. And at that time, it had the rumor of being, okay, well, this is where we send the dirt bags. And I'm like, I'm not a dirt bag. And, you know, I'm here to control airplanes. But in looking back at it, it was a great learning experience because they had the carrier deck out there, and we did the night carriers, we did FCLPs, all that stuff. But our altitude was up to about 2,500 feet. So you had the schedule. So you would have these guys coming back from the warning areas if they didn't come from Cecil to go. So they were gas. So they had their scheduled time, and then the next ones would show up. So you'd have to start stacking airplanes up to 2,500 feet, you know, with different squadrons waiting for their allotted time. So as one squadron's leaving, doing their being done with their FCLPs, now you're bringing in the other guys. So you learned how to stack and how to sequence. And I was like, okay,
you're almost
cool.
like operating carrier wise.
Exactly. And then they said, okay, I was out there for a year, and they said, okay, now we're going to bring you back to Cecil. We're going to put you in the tower. I said, okay, cool. I was a third class E4. And so I consider myself a little bit more mature because I went to college after I got high school because I couldn't decide if I was going to join the Navy or not, but I got a baseball offer. So I went and played college baseball. And then I said, you know, I'm done. I'm going to join the Navy. And
I got to work.
Yeah. I'm from Tucson, Arizona.
Yeah.
So we had a Davis Monthan Air Force Base. And I saw the Air Force guys all the time, and I'm like, I am not going to be a wuss like that. I'm sorry. I just can't do it. I just,
Hey,
you know.
Hey, you know what? I'm just going to say you put that a lot nicer than I would have.
Well, I was going to use the other word, but, you know, I was told, hey, you got to.
I know. Lorenzo gave me the brief.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and so then they sent you to KEF, where you're working with a lot of Air Force guys.
Yeah, I know. But, you know, I was single at the time. My wife's not in here, so the women, yeah, I was good. Anyway, you know, so I got sent back to the Cecil Tower, 3rd class, and went through the tower, became the first 3rd class tower supervisor at a master jet base at Cecil. And we were working Hornets, S3s, A7s, A4s. We had the Tomcats come in, and what was really good was about the tower was when we had the visiting squadrons come in, they parked right below the tower. They had a little maintenance area thing right there. So all the Tomcat guys and everything. And I was a Tomcat guy. That's I call it, I'm a Tomcat guy, even though I didn't fly. It's my favorite airplane. But I did not join the Navy because of Top Gun. I joined I felt like the movie The Final Countdown. That was, you know, when the one guy pulls over the top and then hits the and I'm not going to use the terminology I'll use because I don't know what it is, but he hits the afterburners just before he gets top. I'm like, that's cool. That's cool. You know,
I love that.
Tomcats chasing those zeros was a pretty sweet scene.
Yeah,
absolutely,
that was pretty.
Absolutely. You know, and so I was working there. That's where I got my first NAM on an S3, as a matter of fact, and had my first crash on an S3. And still remember the call sign, Fighter 98. He crashed. He was doing touch and goes in the pattern. Came off 3-6 left, did an aileron roll, lost electrical, and his aileron went upside down, and they punched. And the one guy went out. He came down through the fireball, and then the other guy, he went out parallel to the trees. And because there was only 2 of them in the airplane, and they both lived.
Wow.
And I was like, you got to be kidding me, right, man? You're the only guy in my pattern, and you crash. Like, what's the deal, dude? And then so I'm going through this whole evolution. We got a recovery that's in prog, getting ready to start. I'm trying to ship airplanes away, and then the rescue helo comes over from NAS Jax, who was our SAR asset, and he's flying around the crash site, and he goes, and somebody keys up the radio and goes, I'm going down. And I'm like, what? And I said, say again. He goes, this is blah, blah. I can't remember his call sign. He goes, blah, blah, blah. I'm losing the engine. I'm going down. And I'm like, great, 2 within an hour.
That's
I'm
the helo?
Wow.
Yeah, that was a helo. So he lost one of his engines.
Oh my!
I was able to get him back to the base of the tower to land. He was able to get it going again, and they went and picked the guys up and then took them to the hospital.
Wow.
And then
was it an H3?
Yeah, it was an H3. This is how far back I go.
Yeah.
And
Blain, what year was that?
That was 1989.
Okay, I was at NAS Jax in 1990. So
yeah, you guys almost crossed.
Yeah, I bet we were there at the same time because I was in that time frame too.
Yeah,
I remember getting some unrestricted takeoffs out of Cecil that were.
Oh, dude.
Well,
that was our standard. That was our standard climb. Was depending on what runway we were on, but like, I gave it all the time.
Go for it. Give it all you got.
Exactly. I'm like, show it. And
so you got your own air show, right? I mean,
oh yeah,
yeah.
The great thing about doing the job that I'm still doing it now is knowing the rules, knowing what you can push and what you can't push. So like if we had to work on the weekends and you'd get the ferries that would be going down to Key West, or they would be going back to Oceana or whatever,
Yeah.
And so I would tell them, hey man, signal Charlie or single bingo or whatever it is. I can't even remember the things, but come in high speed, no delay, carrier brake approved, could land, and we're grading you on your brake. So we would grade these guys on the brake.
Yeah.
And so they'd come in and do their break, and they like, yeah, they'd land, like, how'd we do? And I'm like, dude, that was a 5, man.
Oh.
And
I saw better when my mom did it yesterday.
Yeah, so we would so the way it was that we got around it, that we kind of egged it on, was, well, we'd send them to the pits, and they get gas, and like, hey dude, if you want to make up that grade, you can make it up on departure. I'll get you unrestricted to 15,000. You let me see what you got, right? Okay, man, we'll do it. And so, so we had this one guy, I don't even remember the squadron, but his call sign was Stud 200. And it was funny because when he came in, he broke, and I'm like, dude, are you a stud or are you a pony? Because that was weak. And so when he took off, man, he just brought the airplane right off the ground. It was a Tomcat, and brought it right off the ground and just got to the end and just went straight up. And he gets up to 15,000 feet. He doesn't even contact departure. And he's like, still up with tower. And he goes, hey, man, that's Stud 200. How was that? And I'm like, dude, that was awesome. I'm like, that's so that was some of the things that we got to play around with at Cecil. Great, because they had parallel runways. And you just pumped airplanes. And
that's pretty cool. I'm transiting across country. You never really know, if it's not your home field, you don't really know what you're going to get there. I don't know the Smokehouse SUEDE, if you guys saw the same thing, but on cross countries, we always were wanting to do a little bit of air show, and it kind of felt like the guys on the radio wanted to see it, but you never really knew. So it's
that was us. I had 2 other guys with me. And we just asked people to do things. It was so boring. Sunday afternoon, you remember the old days, you can't do anything until noon because of quiet hours, because of chapel. And I'm sitting here going, man, let's light it up, And so as soon as noon hits and the guys are coming back, I'm like, carry brake approved, carry brake approved, carry brake approved. and they're like, you can't give those to transient. I'm like, really? Watch this, carry brake approved,
Carry out 600 feet, go.
Exactly. And I'm like, bring it, balls to the wall, brake 600 feet, sweet, And learned a lot about the Hornet, obviously, because that's where they were transitioning to the Hornet from the A7s and A4s and stuff. Met some really cool guys. And then I was in the tower the day that they did Captain Spiker's memorial. And that will forever be with me, because VFA 106 was doing the flyby. And I remember I launched the 4-plane, and they went out and joined up, and then they would come back in, and they were coming in, and I said, the airspace is yours. Do whatever you want. And they were flying the missing man, and just when they got about 2 miles out, and they go, the lead goes, okay guys, let's make this good. And I was like, oh dude, you just hit me in the chest with that. And then he went straight up, and I was like, I got nothing to say. So I've been in the tower during some memorable times, some sad times. But Cecil was incredible because of the amount of traffic. At that time, we were doing traffic numbers more than Chicago O'Hare.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
I came in just before Desert Storm started. They put everybody on alert, right? And they said, well, okay, this was going down. So in 72 hours, the squadrons are leaving, the boat's leaving, the whole 9 yards. I came in on a Sunday thinking I'm just going to take it easy and eat my chicken wings that I do on Sunday. I think we did almost 3,000 operations on that Sunday.
Wow.
Guys are going to the range, dropping bombs, doing FCLPs, and we were doing FCLPs at our outlying field. We were doing FCLPs at Cecil. The sky was lit up with airplanes, and I was worn out. And the schedule that we were working at that time was not conducive to sleep. And, so it was a busy time, but, and so left there. Well, actually I got married just before I transferred, and knew I was getting married. So when I came up for orders, I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't go to the boat right now getting married. You know, that probably won't last very long. And so I was able to get orders down to Rosie Roads. Well, I was down there, I actually kind of got recruited to go down there to not only work, but to play softball, which is a good thing. And then we had, I don't know if you guys ever heard of Tent City.
Yeah.
And they had, so
where the no-see-ums hang out.
oh, dude, it was crazy. But it was cool for me because I was used to working the jets. A lot of the people that were there, the only time that they worked jets was when the exercises were going on. But I was used to it. So went to got approach control qualified, went through the tower. I was now a facility watch supervisor and worked Tent City. And I remember this one guy, this Tomcat was coming in to go to Tent City, and the runways intersected, and he was coming in and he landed, and just before he was getting to go to make the turnoff, he goes, "Hey, tower, I just lost my brakes." And I remember I told him, I said, "Dude, drop your hook." I said, last set of arresting gear is 1,500 feet in front of you. And he goes, "Roger that." Drops the hook. You see the hook bounce, skip, sparking, catches the gear. I'm like, sweet. And so now I'm holding everybody else overhead. And while they're getting him out because they got to put a tow tractor on him and stuff and get him over to the thing. But he's like, "Hey, Tyler, man, that was a cool move. I like how you did that. That was sweet." And, but I knew where you guys were officers. I was enlisted. I understood that. But you guys were people.
Yeah.
You guys are people. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm a person. And if something's going on, if I tell you straight up, okay, this is what's going on, this is what I'm seeing, then the communication that we're going to have between the two of us is going to be so much better. I'm going to trust you because I know you guys are flying Tomcats, and you guys know what the heck's going on. Plus, there's two of you in the airplane. Okay, where the lawn darts, the Hornets, there's only one guy in there, and so it was you kind of had to be a little bit careful with them. You just didn't want to overwhelm them.
Well, it really was a handshake. I feel like, especially from the community in general. I mean, certainly from the backseaters, because we were the guys on the radio most of the time.
All right.
Not all the time. I suspect probably the guy you were talking to right then might have been your front seater on that particular engagement. But we really did feel like it was a handshake. It was a partnership. I mean, because we were talking to you guys, knowing that you knew you had SA that we didn't have. You had the big picture, literally. And it was really, really nice to be able to trust you guys. So,
yeah, but you guys had the radar.
Well,
that was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that we knew, just like with the maintainers and just like with the ATC guys, they had our lives in their hands. So, I mean, it was all mutual cooperation. There wasn't any rank. There wasn't any rank.
I think that was the greatest thing besides being an air traffic controller in the Navy was, and you saw it more on the boat, was because you saw the guys, you saw you guys. We interacted with you guys every day, especially coming down from air ops or from CATSI or whatever. We interacted with you guys all the time, so we would know you. And then when you'd hear you guys on the radio, I'm like, okay, dude, I know I can trust that guy.
Yeah, that's that guy.
That's that guy.
It's not just a faceless person, right?
No,
right?
Yeah,
right.
And it was the difference between being at sea and being on shore duty is night and day.
Yeah.
Okay. Your interaction with the officers, with the pilots, with the flight crews, with the squadron maintainers, with everybody at sea, you're a team. Okay. It doesn't matter where you're from, who you look like, who you talk like, whatever. You're a team, and you try to achieve the goal. And that's the goal was for everybody to go home. That was the goal. Okay.
Without being too political, but I'm going to say it. That's why I don't think there are any racists in the military. If there are very few, because we're all on the same team,
Exactly.
and everybody counted on everybody. It didn't matter what the color of your skin was, didn't matter what sex you were. It just mattered that we were all going to come home to our families that night.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's it. And
Yeah, I gotta say, yeah, that's so true. I mean, it's, you know, you're one family. You're living together. You're eating together.
Literally.
Yeah,
And even dying together in some cases.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah,
So,
absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
I felt, you know, that brought, you know, that brotherly love for, you know, just about anybody.
Absolutely.
Working with. And, you know,
Yeah.
Blaine, I wanted to tell you when I originally joined the military, when I joined the Navy, I found out that I couldn't be a pilot, and because I had to go to school and, you know, be an officer and stuff, and my pick was ATC. My pick was
actually,
aircraft control.
and ironically, my pick was search and rescue swimmer.
See, so check this out. When I went to boot camp, unfortunately, I could swim, and I could swim better than just about anybody in my class. They pulled my AC contract, and they said, you're going to do something in the water. And I dug my heels in because I said, no, I'm going to be in air traffic control, and you can kick me out of the Navy. Like, if you don't accept these orders, we are going to kick you out of the Navy. I was like, oh my God. Okay. Well, I guess I don't have
I changed my mind.
Well, it was funny because I went to MEPS to be a SWAT swimmer, and you know, you go through the whole thing, and you're sitting at MEPS, and they bring the guy in, and my guy happened to be a Filipino guy, and I'm like, dude, he goes, what do you want to do? And I'm like, hey, I want to be a search and rescue swimmer. And he goes, I've been here 5 years, never seen that come up on my computer. I don't know what you're looking for, but I don't know. I said, dude, can you just push it in and see, man? You know, and felt.
Check this out, Blaine. When I was in my classification, this guy comes in and he brings me. I don't understand how they did it, but he shows this picture of a rescue swimmer jumping a helo right over the water. What does water do when a helo's over the top of it?
It moves.
It ripples the water, right?
Right.
Now, Photoshop was not a thing back then, but there was absolutely nothing under the bottom of that helo. And as he was jumping into the Caribbean water, there was a shadow of him jumping from the helo into that crystal clear Caribbean water. And I was thinking, oh yeah, I could definitely do that.
That's amazing.
Not forgetting about the 130-mile-an-hour downwash underneath.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so anyway, so the Philippine, he's like, okay. So he goes, how about a boiler tech? And I'm, dude, I can't turn a wrench.
No.
Straight up. And he goes, well, how about a machinist mate? And I said, that's the same thing as a boiler tech, which means I just told you so I can turn a wrench.
No.
And he goes, how about a cook on a submarine? And I said,
No.
Are you serious, dude? And I never actually thought of air traffic control, and it just came out. And he's like,
you had to
I've
have
never
a high
seen it.
tab for that too.
Yeah,
That's
I
cool.
was going. I had everything up to nuke, so I was there. And
well, see the same.
so, anyways,
talking about being able to communicate with pilots, that was like second best thing to me. I was like, well, if I can't be one, at least I can talk to them and communicate and have some sort of relationship with the pilots. That's, you know, that'll be good enough for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, when I was going through air school, I was like, well, I could go in ROTC, you know, and then I was like, whatever, you know. So I stuck it out and just tried with air traffic control, and just was fortunate enough to go to the duty station that I just learned so much. And then after Rosie Roads, I told my wife, I said, honey, I said, if I'm going to make chief, I got to go to sea.
Yeah.
I haven't been to sea yet. I got to go to sea.
Yeah.
And so I called the detailer, and I said, look, and he was a good friend of mine, Master Chief. And he said, hey, man, I said, Master Chief, I got to go to sea. And he goes, yeah. I said, I'll tell you what. I said, pick the 3 boats that you need people. I said, and then he told me, and I said, okay. I said, I'll call you back in a week. So I talked to my wife about it. And I said, well, if I'm going to sea, I'm going on something new. And it's a nuke. I said, and at that time, the GW had only done 1 deployment.
The GW was brand new in '92, sitting beside us at Norfolk Pier 11.
Yeah. So I went to GW. You know, whole new experience. But I'm like, you want to Navy to go see, man, you're here. And so we were doing they were in the middle of Comp 2X because I actually flew out to the boat and down in Puerto Rico and started that, and then we had one son while I was in Puerto Rico, and my wife was pregnant with our second one, and then we finished Comp 2X, and then getting ready to deploy. So my second son was born about 6 weeks after I left. So he was 6 months old by the time I ever actually held him. Mm-hmm. And but it was we were off the coast of Bosnia. I think it was at Southern Watch or something off the coast of Bosnia. It was good because we got some tax-free money because we were above, and I had a hard time getting qualified in CATC because I was thinking about my wife and just my son and just everything. And then finally, she had him. CATC everything was cool.
Air Traffic Control Center.
Air Traffic Control Center. And I'll go through the positions here in a second because I love the boat. You know, shore duty, whatever. And so she had my son, and then it just like flipped a switch. And so I was working approach, and on the boat you have 2 approach controllers, you have 2 final controllers, then you have a departure controller who does the departures and also handles the gas over the ship, and then you have the master controller who sets up the whole evolution of what's getting ready to go down.
The whole stack up here.
That's it. And
stack.
And so I had a chief that was
someone.
Yeah. One of my chiefs, and he had this saying, because I kept telling him, "Chief, I'm ready, man. I'm ready to get qualified. I'm ready to get qualified." So he had this saying. He would come up behind you, right behind your ear, and he would go, "Is a pig's blank pork," right? And I'm like, the first time I heard it, I said, "I don't even have any clue what you just said." And he goes, "You're not ready." And so this kept going. So once a week for the next 2-3 weeks, he would do this. He would come up behind me and say this. And the third time I said, "Yes." And he goes, "You're qualified." And I said, I don't even under. He goes, "Look," he goes, "Man," he says, "I know you." Yeah, he goes, "I know you can work the airplanes." He goes, "But I wanted to know if you had the room awareness, because you need to listen to what the departure controller is doing, and you need to listen to what the march controller is doing before you ever even get to the airplane." But it was, it was good because you had to listen when a guy came off the deck and he needed to go get gas. You need to be able to hear the departure controller telling him, "Hey, your Hawk's 2 o'clock, report plugged and receiving," and then where he's going to come in the downwind to get handed off so you can hit that hole. And so you had to be aware of this whole thing going on. And, don't tell my wife, but I hear a lot of stuff.
She might listen to podcasts. I'm just
kidding. But we've been married 30 years, so it doesn't matter at this point.
Okay.
So, but yeah, so you had to be able to do this and listen to it. And plus, the approach controllers and the final controllers, they shared a frequency. So your approach controller had to say what he needed to say. Your final controller needed to say to do what he needed to do, especially when they locked up the PALs on the precision approach landing system and stuff. And so he had to say his little blurb. But when you had those moonless nights or bad weather, guys can't get on the boat, and you're talking your butt off trying to hit holes. Guys are going to the tanker, and the file controller keys up and he goes, "You're 3 miles slightly right." I'm like, I look over and I'm like, "Dude, you didn't even need to make that, man. I had needed to make a call on a hook before this guy called a ball. And now he's called a ball. I can't talk." I'm like, "You're an idiot." Wham. That was the old days. And so it was, you just had the same thing, because the last thing you wanted to hear paddle say, "On the ball." Like,
Yeah.
really, dude? I just put him on the ball. Now you're going to repeat to me he's on the ball? Yeah, I know. I need to make that call, you know? So what we did was we learned how to, and I don't know if you guys ever heard this, but if guys getting ready to go on the ball and the approach controller goes, hey, in 10 seconds left of the final bearing, you know, because I'm on the ball, I can't talk, but I want you to count to 10 and then I want you to hook.
Yep.
You know, but you guys had your radars going on. You knew what was kind of going on in the thing. And so we learned how to do that: time, speed, and distance. You know, it's moving. The boat's not staying in one place. It's moving. The airplanes are moving, you know. So I learned how to do that. And I do it now today with Cessnas like crazy.
Yeah.
And they're horrible. But anyway, different story.
Well,
you know.
You're not working with
So
quite the same
Blain,
capability.
are you working right now as an ATC controller?
Yes, I am.
Are you still doing it?
I'm an air traffic control manager at a small county airport in Palm Coast, Florida.
Nice.
We are
very
so anyway,
good.
so I'll get to that in a second. But so anyway, so getting back to the Navy, and you know, the boat's just a whole different environment. It's you know, laid back, but it's tense. The first time I was on the ship, it was absolutely incredible. You know, we had the dogs. Yeah, here's my original VF-143 stick because I keep in my cruise book, and I did bring my cruise books. Going, okay, I got to remember this stuff. And but it was more of a learning environment. The senior officers are really trying to teach the junior officers, and we were actually really working hard. The second time I went back, it was the senior officers constantly beating down the junior officers. It was horrible. And I was like, what kind of environment is this, man?
That's because of the Hornet community.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah. So,
Kinda.
so kind of going with the thing. So I had my classifications for the different aircraft type. So the Tomcat guys, I considered them the blue collar guys. Okay. The Hornet guys, they were the preppies, you know, whatever, you know, the frat boys. Okay.
I love it.
The A6 guys were the redneck guys.
Oh yeah,
they were the rednecks, man.
Right. Yeah, they were.
And the S3s kind of went in with the blue collar, and then the helos they just wearing the whole screw.
Did the S3s have pocket protectors?
No, that was the E2 guys, man. So I got a story. So we had VFA 34, the Blue Blasters, and so I'm sitting in air ops one day, and this guy comes down. And he goes, "Hey," I was a first class, and he goes, "Hey, AC1, I need you to go down to the A6s and talk to them." And I'm like, "Talk to them about what?" And he goes, "Hey, somebody called in from the beach, said they lost an external fuel tank over the beach, and it might have been them." I'm like, "Well, why don't you just walk down?" He goes, "I ain't going down there." And I'm like, "Dude, it's the A6 guys." I goes, "No, I am not going down there." I said, "Okay." So I walk down there. I walk into the ready room, and there's a flight crew right there, pilot and his BN, and he had his flight suit off. It was tied at the middle. He looked like he was going into 3 feet of water. It's high water on his flight suit. You can see his boots, and he was wearing a t-shirt, and it had a rip right here in the seam of his collar and his thing, and he had a big fat dip in. And I'm like, "Oh, dude, this is awesome." I'm like, "This is my kind of people right here." And so I go up to him. He's like, I said, "Hey, sir," I said, "AC1 Miesterhands from CATI." I said, "I just got a call. They wanted me to come down here and talk to you guys about if you guys lost an external fuel tank." And he just kind of looked at me and was like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Somebody called and said that you guys lost the AC or external fuel tank over the beach." And he goes, "Well, how big was it?" And I said, they said it was 500. I said, and he looks at me and he goes, "Who gives a blank?" And I said, "Sir," he goes, "Who gives a blank?" I said, and he looks at me, he goes, "Do you care?" I said, "I don't care. I was just sent down here to ask you." He goes, "Well, I don't care either." And he goes, "I hope that sucker bounced 25 times in the sand." And I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "I don't care." And he spit. And he was talking. He was so passionate about. I don't care, and I don't, and he was dropping F-bombs, and I was like, cool, dude, and spit on me. I had to go change my shirt because I had a tobacco stain on it, and I was like, this is crazy. I'm like, I love this stuff. Yeah.
Hey, Blaine, when they lost that tanker, when they lost that tank, did the Hornets fly down there and try and catch on to it?
Yeah, we need some gas.
They can't fly that low, man. And so yeah, so then later that day, I'm sitting in CATSI, and I'm just sitting there because I was one of the supervisors, and that flight crew was in the A6, and so they're on the CAT, and they take the shot and leave their mic open, and he's going, yeah! I said, I know that dude. I know him, man. That is that guy. And yeah, we kicked it off the rest of the cruise. It was awesome. And the boss comes up and he goes, hey, 501 tower. 501. He goes, hey, was that a good shot? And he goes, that was the best, boss. And I'm like, I'm like, yeah, you guys are rednecks, man. You guys are rednecks. That's it.
Where's Cletus when you need him?
And then probably about 2 weeks later, a Tomcat pilot comes down. He goes, hey, AC-1. He goes, you qualified in the back, right? And I said, yes, sir. He goes, hey, I want you to come down in the ready room. I got something to show you. I'm like, wow, this dude came down and asked for me, and I'm going down to the ready room. Cool. So I follow him down to the ready room, and he's like, hey, here's our display from coming in to land last night. He goes, I want you to look and see how much our system is off from the ACLS.
Oh, he's like, so you're watching the tape from the jet. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm amazed I'm even in here to begin with. And you're talking to me, and you're a Tomcat guy, and you want me to watch this? Now, how much do you really think that I'm going to be able to help you right here, dude? I am overwhelmed, So I'm watching the tape, and I'm watching, and I'm not even watching the HUD display. I'm just watching the tape, and he's coming into lands, and I'm like, and he goes, did you see that? And I'm like, sure, sir. I saw it. I'm like, dude, I just want to thank you for letting me come in here. That's, and
so just like that ready room is sacred ground, Blaine.
Oh yeah, it is. And that's why I had some of the best, and if you got in good with the squadrons, they, you go down, you might get some popcorn. That was the whole thing. You get some popcorn out of the whole deal. And so I said, yes, sir, I did see it. I was paying attention. I said, I don't know what to tell you. But thanks for asking. It was cool. I'll try to tweak it tonight and see what happens. And he's like, okay, cool. And he goes, and then he goes, hey, you want some popcorn? I'm like, heck yeah, dude. Why not, man?
Popcorn.
And so it was just the complete interaction that we had with the flight crews, and then you had the Hornet guys.
Yeah.
They were just like in their own little world. And it was funny because we were doing case 3 one night, and this one pilot, he was not very good, and we were amazed how he even flew F-18s because we didn't think he could think that fast. There's a lot of stuff going on. And so he comes in, so I'm sitting there with my senior chief, and I'm sitting in the thing, and he comes in all in his flight suit,
gear,
all the gear and everything, and throws the door open, and we're sitting there, and my senior chief goes, what the blank do you want? And I was like, oh man, it's getting ready to go down. And so I'm just sitting there, I'm like, okay. And I think his call sign was Bronco.
Bronco.
And yeah. And he goes, I was having problems. And my senior chief goes, no, we don't. He goes, yeah, I was having problems. I dropped my mask. And he goes, well, you're a dumb blank for doing that. And then you're even dumber for not telling us that you were having problems, and because you weren't answering the radio. And he goes, I expect a little bit of respect to that. And he goes, yeah. He goes, here's your respect. Get the blank out. He kicked him out of the CATSI. And I was like, holy crap, dude. And my senior chief looks at me and goes, "Man, this is my 7th deployment. Do you really think I care anymore?" I said, "You're good, man. You're good with me." And so it's just the level of respect that you had with one another, trying to help each other, was crazy. And then I went to P3 community at NAS Jax, and that's just, man, that's a whole different world.
That's a whole nother level of
and so I was there for 5 years. Ended up picking up chief. I had orders to the Kennedy. Picked up chief. Got a call on the following Tuesday saying, "Hey, your orders to the Kennedy were canceled. You're going back to the GW. You're transferring in November, and you're deploying in December."
Wow.
And I went, "Mother trucker." And so we went back to the Gulf. I learned, I had a senior chief that I worked with that was probably the most procedurally correct air traffic controller that I've ever met, that I've ever worked with. I still call him today. I actually had to call him last week about civilian crap. And that tour on the GW was not only my last one in the Navy, but it was beyond stress level. And I wasn't even, working that many airplanes, but because the way that the flight schedule had gotten over time was they were doing less airplanes flying longer events. So we didn't have the 15 to 18 plane recoveries, unless they had to do a air wing currency. And so that just really, it graded on a lot of people. Your mental stamina was definitely being tested. And we had the Tomcats and stuff, and the Hornets, and we didn't have the A6s at then. The Hornets coming back, if they didn't drop their bombs, they were one look at the deck and they were going to the tanker if they didn't make it. And it was just like, dude, come on, man. You're the most advanced one out here. Why can't you land? What's the problem? And so it was just constantly, and stuff. But some of the hardest nights were when the boat couldn't find the wind. So you got the daisy trail behind you, and you're trying to turn into the wind, and you keep going. You're
chasing it.
But I don't know if you guys later went into when you guys were in the Gulf. Did you guys ever? You remember hearing the Arabs talking on their cell phones coming over the frequency?
I do.
You guys ever hear that?
Yeah,
twice.
We got that.
Yeah. So it was that stuff was crazy, and then plus our radar wasn't working very well. So we would see airplanes in the stack in Marshall, and then when you guys would push, when you get hit about 18 miles, we would lose you. So we're sitting there going, okay, well, we got to figure out more time speed distance. Now we know you're going 250 knots, which means that's 8 miles a minute. So if it's going to take you from here to here, and plus we got to hit the ramp with you, okay, because we always use Tomcats as the first one down. Okay, because you guys had the gas. Yep, that's it. And so we were trying to figure out. So we finally came up with a plan saying, okay, just report passing 12 miles, because we had this chart, even though you had all this electronic crap that you were using, you had this chart that we had on we call it the bull nose on our scope. And so say the boss wanted you to hit the deck at time 00. So you would go 00, 59, 58, 57, 56, and 56 is 8 miles. So, okay, as you're rolling through 8 miles, it should be time 56, plus or minus 15 seconds.
Plus or minus.
Right. So now you're taking into account how fast the boat's going. Okay. And then we really cared about fuel states, especially with the Tomcat, because it was a big airplane, big, beautiful airplane. And depending on how much gas you had, and if you didn't drop your bombs, you were much heavier, so you were flying faster. Okay, so we would be going through this stuff and calculating all this stuff in our little chart right there. And then we also knew when you guys hit 4 to 5 miles, you went from 150 to 135. Okay. So you're doing all this calculation and you're hitting a deck. And so you want to hit the deck at time 00. And so you would do that. And we got pretty daggum good at it. You know, we were, we just used the Tomcats, and then the Hornets came, and you always hawked the Hornets because you knew that they couldn't get on. They got to get gas. And, you know, and so it was this. So, and then I retired, was out for about 10 months, and then got picked up by the FAA, went to work for the FAA at Jackson International. Was there for 2 years. Absolutely. I loved working the airplanes. I loved the equipment. I did not like the people. I've never met a more negative type people in my life. And I'm sitting here going, you guys get to go home every night. You made $180,000 last year.
Oh my goodness.
What is the problem?
Was that a difficult transition for you, Blaine, going from
because I had to keep my
to
mouth shut.
Civilian?
Yeah, I had to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
the problem.
Blain, I was going to say, so like that's the thing about the Navy is it does. I mean, certainly we've got different people. We got, you know, not everyone gets along all the time, for sure. I mean, I've certainly had my share of bosses that I'm like, wow. but it is kind of a family, and we are on one team. And so seeing that when you transition out of, I suppose we've all seen that now. Those of us who are out, the community outside is different. I was going to say, this is actually a really good way to segue. Blain, thank you for sharing your career with us. It's been awesome to hear it. And hearing the other side of the guy on the radio. I've known some other ATC guys myself, and it's been really cool to hear a very specific Tomcat, as you're seeing from your perspective what it was like to control the Tomcat. Ray, from his family, is just absolutely like dyed in the wool Tomcat guy.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear Ray's story, Ray. Just lay it on us, brother.
Yeah. It's been really awesome to hear that. You know, how you go from family to not family when you're getting out of the Navy. So, Ray, you started your experience with Grumman before you were in the Navy, right? So.
Yeah. So, wow, it all started. Grew up in Bayshore, Long Island, not too far from Calverton, and I was the last out of 6 kids. And my dad rode a motorcycle and built fighter jets and the lunar module, and I wanted to emulate him and be like him. So yeah, it started out my grandfather back in the Widgeon Albatross Panther days. I think my grandfather, Torrey Borrelli Sr., was with Grumman over 25 years, and my dad was in World War II in the German liberating concentration camps, and came out and started as a Grumman field rep. So make a long story short, he quit school in 5th grade to steal bicycles to feed his family. So self-taught flight test engineer, 51 years at Grumman. So he was so he was that's him right here, and I call him the original Tony Stark. But yeah, you know, I grew up, and you know, my dad sometimes, definitely not in junior high school by any means, but in grade school, he would take my report card to work, and he'd return, and there'd be Tomcat stickers in there, and all the pilots would sign my report card.
Wow.
And that to me was I couldn't even describe how that was. It was just awesome.
What time frame was that?
What's that?
What time frame was that?
Oh, 1973, 74.
Oh yeah, early years of the
Yeah, that's like right when they came out.
Yeah. So so he ended up taking my 3rd grade class to Calverton for a field trip and sat every kid in a Tomcat. And so he was as you can tell, he was definitely my hero in life, and wanted to emulate him. So I didn't really have the brains to go to college, frankly. I struggled with mathematics quite a bit and just couldn't seem to get it. So carry on to high school. I enlisted in the Navy on the delayed entry program after 11th grade. So I spent the 12th grade basically kind of a reservist, if you will, and went to Great Lakes and then off to Millington for A school for aviation structural mechanic. And then after that, I got placed with VF-11 in Oceana, spent some time at that squadron, and then moved on over to VF-11, where I went directly to the line shack and launched and recovered jets. And at the time, my wife was a personnelman on base. And when they were coming back from Top Gun, I had duty, so I had to park a bunch of airplanes, and it was kind of cool. She came with me and helped. It was pretty awesome. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
she enjoyed it.
It's definitely a good story. I mean, my dad would bring home these models of the lunar module in these glass cases, and he'd say, "My son, you can't touch these, but you can look at them. I got to take them back tomorrow." And so just cool stuff like that. And my uncle Mark.
Ray, when were you at?
83.
83.
Probably October.
Yeah.
83.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I just wanted to be like my dad in so many ways. And at that time, VF-11 was assigned to the Kennedy, and then we cross-decked to the Forrestal. And shoot, after that, my wife and I had gotten married in the Navy and 38 years ago, so we're still going strong.
Awesome.
And yeah,
congratulations.
Who says it can't be done, right?
Yeah. Hey, we got 37 this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Boy.
Wait, awesome. Staring at 26 this year, right? No.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm at 30.
Yeah.
I'm at 30.
God bless you all. God bless you all. Because we all know that we would never do it again. Not because we don't love them endlessly. It's just because no one could replace them.
Right. That's true.
That's true.
That is true.
That's true. It's true. It's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about
it. It takes a special woman to be a Navy wife.
It really does.
It does.
And three of my 4 kids were born while I was at sea.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. My first Adam, my son, was 4 months old when I met him. And then it goes down from there. Sarah was 3, and
wow,
Holly was older than that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So soon after that, let's see. I got out the 4th of July, 1986.
So how much time did you have?
I was a 3x6, they called us.
What does that mean?
So I actually stayed in 4. And so no, that was 84. Yeah. And then basically waited for my wife to get out. We were at Oceana, out the back gate there, those apartments that had the big lighthouse near it, if you guys recall, by the mall there.
Yeah.
But and then I wanted to go work for Grumman. So we moved back to New York, and I applied to Grumman just as a, I didn't, boast about my dad or my grandfather or my uncle or anybody like that. I got in and I was doing final assembly. And I'll tell you a funny story. I was putting in one of the right side hydraulic pumps, and I had hydraulic fluid going down my arm and my boots, and I hear heels clicking in the hangar bay. And that only meant one thing to most of us. And it wasn't a woman, it was my Uncle Mark, and my dad's brother. And he told my boss, "I'm taking my nephew to lunch," and you just see my boss's face go. And I was like, I wanted to lay low, So my uncle was on the tram program for A6, and my dad was on the Tomcat side. So
what is tram program? I don't know what that means.
It was an A6 program. Lorenzo, you might have to help me out what the acronym means, but I thought it was a type of jammer, right?
The targeting laser pod in the front nose.
Yeah.
Ah, the little bubble, the little turret thing. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And so my uncle took me to lunch out the back gate. He was the only one that was allowed to park right next to the hangar. So we went to lunch, and that was that. And then he came back and he's like, I didn't know you were Mark's nephew. And so that means you're Ed's son? Yeah. So anyway, I saw the writing on the wall when they canceled the night shift, and I saw Grumman, starting to get sold to Northrop, and I went down. I got a job as a composite autoclave operator at Eastern Airlines down at the Miami hub.
Are you kidding? Eastern Airlines?
Yeah.
My dad was an Eastern pilot.
Oh wow! So I fixed up all the planes before the strike. So I was a new hire. I wasn't a scab, if you will. So I went to work. We fixed all the unfinished planes so they could sell them.
Wow.
So that at that time, I was road racing motorcycles for a hobby and having fun with that. And Eastern laid us all off, and we got some unemployment, and I went to go race motorcycles for a living. So soon after that, I got into the industry as a rep, and was in the power sports industry now 35 years. And I was with Honda for 21 years, and I just separated from them in December. So I'm looking for my next adventure. But
man, that sounds like a fighter pilot life right there, racing motorcycles and going fast, and that's pretty good.
My dad would be gone at work all day, and I used to bug my sisters, so he bought me a little Honda Z50 to ride around the yard, and that's what I did. But
that's awesome.
A lot of good memories. The Grumman picnics, stickers, and what kid didn't love stickers? I mean, and my dad seemed to have a connection in every department at Grumman, so he'd come home with all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it's definitely good memories. Then he went over to Iran when I was a kid. He was one of the Grumman guys that went over there.
Oh, wow.
Seriously? Your dad was one of the guys that went?
That was 1977.
That's wild.
He left, and I didn't really get it. I was still pretty young, and I'll never forget. I was 11 years old, and I was missing my dad. It was quite horrible, frankly. But my mom and my four sisters, one was already gone, and kind of kept me in check. And the only little boy with a bunch of girls running around. It was difficult because I probably was a pain in the butt most of the time. But so one night, I'm sitting in our living room, and my mom's sitting in an easy chair crocheting or something, and my sister's with a boyfriend on the couch, and we're watching a movie. And we had these blinds in the front window, and I'm facing the window, and I see eyes in the window. And I said, Mom, there's somebody looking in. Shut up. And I opened the door, and it was my dad. He didn't tell us he was.
Wow.
He didn't tell us he was coming home, and I think Lorenzo can tell the story about how they vacated and how fast they had to go get out of there, and that whole story is true. So came from a Grumman family. I really wanted to stay, but I didn't really know much about politics or why it was being sold and what it meant. And so I went down and worked for Eastern and started that whole deal. But yeah, if it wasn't for Grumman and the turkeys at Christmas time and the really cool things that my dad did for me and my friends and everything, it was quite a story. It really is, and I really feel blessed. I really feel blessed to have gone through that.
You mentioned the Christmas, turkeys at Christmas time. I want to throw out there a little history nugget on that. There's a set of railroad tracks that run between Grumman Bethpage facility to Grumman Calverton. It's about 45 miles apart. And they use those tracks to ship, obviously, parts that are on schedule. If this parts are being on schedule, we'll find them on the expressway on the back of Grumman tractor trailers. You'll see radomes go by, wings go by. But usually they use the railroad tracks. But Grumman Bethpage employees would pack a railroad car full of frozen turkeys at Bethpage and they train to Calverton. And as the employees offloaded at the end of the day, you'd stop by the tracks and they would hand you a cardboard box with Grumman written on the side, said Merry Christmas, keep frozen. And your family turkey was in the box.
That's pretty awesome.
Wow.
Amazing.
That was the one day my dad had to take a car to work because he rode a motorcycle to work every day because at that time gas was super expensive and there was a shortage. So that was his excuse to ask my mom for a motorcycle. So but yeah, it was really fun and
take notes.
Good memories. What's that?
I was telling Smokehouse to take notes. He's got a Harley, and he looks for reasons.
Yeah,
That's okay.
Yeah, you should see
maybe
that
more than
Harley.
one. Maybe more than one.
Yeah, that's okay.
Raymond, did they?
I have a
give away
guest
turkeys?
motorcycle. If any of you guys ever wants to come ride with me.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, I do. I have a
I've
guest
been on, I've
motorcycle.
been on that test motorcycle trying to keep up with him, so
Yeah,
I get it.
no, it's a guest motorcycle. So if you knew how to ride a motorcycle, come visit with me. We'll go in the Tennessee mountains and we'll have a great day. Tell him, Rob.
That
Nice.
sounds awesome. We're gonna ask
Raymond, did they give away turkeys because it was inverse? Was it the reason they gave away turkeys then because the Tomcat was named the turkey, or was the Tomcat named the turkey because?
No, it
of
was
that?
my dad always had like 2 weeks off for Christmas, so I knew when that turkey came home, he was mine for 2 weeks. So
Right,
it
that's
was
cool.
yeah, it was all due for Christmas celebration and whatnot, and just some good times there. And in the Navy, I spent some time, like I said, with VF-11 and line shack and corrosion control, and then moved over to airframes. And they sent me to paint insignia school. Learned a lot, and it was a good time. It was a good
What was
time.
it like being in the line shack and then going from the line and second mech and being a PC and then going and
Yeah.
seeing the absolute other side of things?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a second mech long. We talked about, I think, the initiation on the last show I was on, but once I made plane captain, it wasn't long after that where they sent me to corrosion control, and I was painting jets for a while, and then off to airframes. So the line shack was, I don't know, somebody said something about redneck earlier. I don't know if I'm going to use that one, but it was very cowboy like.
Oh yeah.
So there was some initiations and whatnot that went on in the line shack there that
Yes.
may or may not have happened.
Yes.
I'll tell you though, some of my favorite interactions. I mean, as a Rio, SUEDE would probably say the same thing, but as a Rio, obviously we had a lot of interaction with the ATs, with the electronics guys.
Yeah.
But some of my favorite interactions with the plane captains, because you guys took such pride in preparing that jet for
Absolutely
100% ready to go, and you really felt bad for them when you're like, something's not quite right here. I mean, because they were really kind of not like their reputation was riding on it, but sort of like, this is a piece of me. There's a little bit of my own heart and soul has gone into preparing this jet for this launch, for this mission.
Yeah.
And I just really appreciated that. The plane captains, I don't think they're kind of an unsung hero, I gotta say.
Oh man, I can't echo that enough. Those guys were so. I mean, they were everything. You knew that when you took off, they were taking off with you. They knew that your life was on the line, and they put everything into it. I never met a single person on that flight deck that I didn't feel like, he put everything into my life today. It was a really, really, really honorable thing.
The display of commitment is when he waits with 100 pounds of chains around his neck.
Right.
That was the connection.
The plane captains had a lot to survive in the line shack. That was I know kind of a tough place. Being the legal officer, and if they survived the line shack, they were going to be a sailor.
Yeah, some officers had to
proper term.
Yeah, some officers had to survive that line shack too. I remember lots of pink bellies and duct tape and
I never went down there.
stuff.
I stayed away.
Yeah, if you went into the line shack at the wrong time, it was a bad day for you.
Yeah, I didn't go near there, but I do know, like, all the PCs, they when they gave you that brief, they wanted a perfect jet, and times when half the jet would be taken apart because you're going through checks, and it's like, you need hydraulic fluid, because all of a sudden a bunch of squirted out, and you need this, that, or the other, and half the turtleback would be taken apart, and then they put it back together, and it's like, this isn't the same jet I pre-flighted, but if you're telling me it's going, all right.
Yeah, no, they were awesome individuals. They really were.
Yeah.
And Ray, when you worked as a PC and then went to the opposite side with Grumman, were you able to transcend some of the stuff that you learned in the fleet to what you were seeing on the manufacturing floor and tell them, hey,
Yes, absolutely. I was the butt line 10 man at Grumman. I was the firewall between the wing sweep actuator and the engine. It was like a 15-piece titanium puzzle that everybody hated to do. You're upside down in the hellhole for 3 days with magnets and fishing string and all the other stuff. But nobody wanted to do it. I said, I'll do it. You know, I was young and strong and healthy, and yes, absolutely. There was a lot in common. I was home, if you will. That airplane I was comfortable with. I learned everything on that airplane, you know, absolutely everything. So, it had a lot to do with my success at Grumman, call it that. I was only there for 4 years, and then everything went down, if you will. But
did a lot of guys look up to you because you had fleet experience, or because you'd actually seen the operational side of the Tomcat? Whereas,
you know, that's a good question. I look back now, and everybody knew there was a lot of elder mechanics at Grumman when I got there, and you know, they were kind of rusty and do whatever I want to do kind of guys, and I really laid low. You know, I didn't want anybody to know I was Ed's son or Mark's nephew or Vittorio Borrelli Sr.'s, you know, grandson. I just kind of laid low, Rob. I really did.
Smokehouse could tell you something about that too.
I don't know if you guys can see this or not. Can you see that?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
That's Rosie Roads. That's Tent City.
Wow.
Yeah.
Complete with the Italian flag on my cranial.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
And who's the pilot, or is that a Rio, or I can't tell?
No, he was a pilot.
Cool.
Yep. So it was a lot of good. I tell you, some of the funnest times I had was, I hate to say it, kind of, because we were treated like, you know, kind of dirtbags, was the corrosion control side. I mean, learning how to paint. They sent me to paint insignia school. I mean, you never lose some of that knowledge. So it was cool. It was a good time.
Well, we might need your help. I'm trying to redo a Tomcat in Kansas that has been destroyed. And
I heard about that. We
need corrosion control. We need paint. We need insignias. We need all of that.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, honestly, if the jet didn't have a good paint job, I would have still flown it. But part of what made flying the Tomcat awesome was that it looked like that, you know, and even the, you know, the grimy boots prints on it that are, you know, if you look at that photo carefully, you can see the grimy boot prints, right?
Yeah.
But even still, it was a good looking jet. I mean, good looking jet because of the design, but also because it was well maintained. And the paint scheme on it was a big part of that. So I always appreciated whenever I got to go down to the paint shop, I'd ask them what they were working on, because they were always happy to tell me about it. It was nice to hear it. So
I was corrosion control Brancho and loved working
with a lot of good folks. Even though we were in World War II flight boots, we should have been on something that didn't mark up the airplanes. I never understood why we were wearing these World War II boots that stunk and nasty leather and just junk. But yeah, they could have done a lot if we had the right equipment, you know, all those marks. And I really hated when I saw a blotchy airplane, because the gray would kind of change color and whatnot. But yeah, it was a good time.
You said you were the Brancho?
Yeah, I was Brancho corrosion control. Loved working with those guys, and you know, I'd go and put some of the what was it called? The gray like gray 10 or something like that. On some of the spot things, and you know, our guys came up with some new paint schemes, and we did a few things, and they did a lot of really cool paint jobs on the Lantern pod that made it look like it had a tattoo and stuff. And
oh wow.
Yeah, they did some really neat stuff. They were a lot of talent, very good at what they did, and liked working with them and working in the shop. But another thing too, I don't know if Ray, I got a question for you. I know, like at Tailhook and at Fighter Fling was the thing we would do once a year, just celebrating the Tomcat. And you know, at each of those events, Grumman would have an admin suite. And always go in there, just tell the Grumman reps how much I appreciated the jet, loved Ironworks, and tell them, get the word back to the dudes working the lines. I don't know if they ever did that, but like, thank them for building an awesome piece of gear.
That's awesome.
And they were that love the jet, and I'd always love getting a tie tag. In fact, I got a bunch of F-14 tie tags from the Grumman reps, and now I use them button studs for my when I wear my mess dress.
Nice.
So yeah, you guys built an awesome piece of gear.
Yeah,
I will tell all you squadron guys, when you guys would come up, when the Tomcat would come up to the catapult, I would take my glove off, because I always had to have gloves on working in the catapults. I'd take my glove off, and I would run my hand from the pitot tube all the way down the side of the jet. As it came up, I wanted to feel the engines, and I wanted to feel the spirit of the aircraft as it was pulling into the NGL. And then as soon as it came forward and it hit its spot, I'd put my glove back on. I'd go underneath there. I'd grab the nose gear and do my thing.
Yeah,
you could the spirit of the Tomcat was like it had its own personality. It had its own character. It had its own spirit, and it had its own mark. Its own, it's like a fingerprint. It had all of that.
One of the best things was when I'd go up to Vulture's Row to watch, was when the Tomcat would come up to the cat and it still had the launch bar up, and then when they lowered the launch bar and the nose would go down, and then the Tomcat, now it's getting in the shuttle, and you got the steam coming across the thing. And the Tomcat, to me, it looked like, being from Arizona with tarantulas, it looked like a tarantula on the cat ready to jump.
Well, sometimes
it was just like don't mess with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes when the Tomcat came up and the catapult steam was coming out as the shuttle retracted, it would obscure the entire jet. You couldn't see anything, and then the intakes would start eating that steam.
Right.
And then as it pulled that steam out of the way, then you see the twin tails, and then the pitot tube's about 2 feet from you. It was just surreal watching that as it came up into the infield. Yeah.
Can you guys see this?
Yes. I was gonna we got to wrap this up. So, what is this a picture of?
Yeah. That is a camouflage Tomcat that we flew during Desert Storm. I think it was the only one of its kind.
Oh wow!
And it was all camo colors.
Oh wow!
I'll have to try and send you guys the pictures of it, but it was really, really, really cool.
That's hot. That's nice.
Yeah.
But so that's it, fellas. That's all my story, and I appreciate being here, and I appreciate you all coming. And I'm living in Georgia now, so I can say it like that. So,
I went to Georgia Tech, so I hear you. I learned how to eat grits.
That's right.
You guys have been an awesome crew to have aboard for this rather extended program. My understanding is we're actually going to split it up. But I appreciate you sticking it out. And it's been really, really awesome to hear the stories, the experiences, the camaraderie, inspiration, even. Honestly, all of you have contributed amazingly to the story of this jet that we got to fly, and the rest of you got to work on it. And it's been,
I don't know if you can you see that? This is
there it is.
Yes,
that looks beautiful.
That was on the pressure cooker, Blain.
I'm sorry, but that's badass. I don't know. I'm sorry, you can bleep it, but that's my first cuss word tonight. But I just want to share that, because that's
not mine.
It's not my role. And you know what? And I, not to make this any longer, but the F-35s came out. F-35 guys came out for a tour on the DW. They came into CATSI, and I looked at the guy and I said, "Dude, we don't need your airplane." he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "You take the money that you're doing to build the F-35 and you put that into a Tomcat, and you will have air superiority for the next 100 years."
Yeah, buddy.
How good that airplane is. I said, "Your airplane is some politician kissing somebody else's butt." I said, "That's what it is."
Exactly right.
Anytime, baby.
Anytime, baby.
Yep.
Well, speaking of time, we've really got to cut this off.
I know. It's been too long. It's been too long, but it's been great. Thank you guys so much for letting me play.
Epic.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank
for
you.
everything.
That was awesome.
It's been. I thank all yous, and before we check out here, a couple things I want to throw at you. Just go through each of our guests real quick for a second for history nuggets, and I want to call out SUEDE with the swordsman, and I was kind of mentioned to him the other day.
Yeah.
He's part of a squadron that is the VF-32 swordsman is the longest standing F-14 Tomcat squadron in the business.
Woo!
From the first to the latest, yeah.
Gypsy roll.
Gypsy roll, baby.
Gypsy roll. That's the home of Puke McLean, by the way.
Yep.
Puke was a swordsman.
Yep.
Moving over to Ray. I just want to throw out behind him that picture on that wall.
Love that picture. That's super cool.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That is
when I moved here, that's the first thing I got made. It's probably 8 feet.
Oh wow.
It's a full size wall.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Full size.
That's awesome, brother.
I want to point out that Tomcat is number 15 off the line. You can see has the 15 on the tail for the build shop number. So quite a piece behind him. Yeah. And also Blain. I was talking to your son during the show, actually. And quite excited.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, man.
Yeah.
He says he wish he was listening to you, but he's trying to sell cars. And I told him, I said, throw some Tomcat stickers on the back of those cars. They'll fly off the lot. You'll see.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. But you see that with today's generation, they'll be like, what's that?
Yeah.
What's that? I'm like,
well, we're working on it.
I know.
We're working on it. We'll in eventually. And I just want to thank you guys and thank the crowd tonight for joining in and listening. It's an absolutely amazing show. We hope you guys enjoyed it. You can catch us on YouTube. You can find us on Discord. You can catch us on Instagram, Facebook. Just say I say it on every show. Just ask Siri. She's the biggest Tomcat fan on the planet. Just Tomcat radio show. And Siri will blow your mind. She'll scream anytime, baby, and throw 10 shows at you at once. So definitely catch us there. Check us out. Our merch is available at goldleaderatx.com. We got some real great stuff going down over there. We play with the merch line all the time. Aaron, our producer, is responsible behind that, and he does a kick butt job. And
you're the man. You're the man, Aaron.
Lots of kicking.
Big shout out to everybody, and thank you again. And it's absolutely awesome having you guys. Amazing show. SUEDE, great job out there with the kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So good to see all you guys.
Blain is, man, just absolutely stifling great Smokehouse. Awesome to have you as a guest.
God bless you, brother.
Jumping in, baby.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right, we're out.